And actually, fun fact, Monstrous, we initially, I was querying it and I wrote it thinking it was a young adult book. And my editor at Harper actually bought it as a middle grade book. And which was an interesting conversation because my agent sent me the offer. She's like, so she wants it to be a middle grade. And I'm like, middle grade? Hadn't really thought about that very much. How would that work? But as it turned out, she's brilliant and was absolutely right. It just required part at the end to be aged down, essentially. And like it was like in the last third of the book. And the book was also much shorter then. Now it's much longer. So that would be the last half of the book, but then it was last third. And then it really was, in fact, a middle grade book. So, and I've been writing middle grade pretty much ever since until Twin Daggers, which is finally getting published. So my first YA.
And my audience loves literary agents. What was Susie's last name?
Oh, Susie Townsend.
Oh, okay, sure.
She's at New Leaf. She's awesome. She's the best.
I've met Susie Townsend in person, and she's been featured at. You could read her 7-question interview now, esteemed audience, at middlegradeninja.com. Everything you'd ever want to know.
Susie's amazing. Highly recommend. She's awesome. She's a fantastic agent. She's a delight to work with.
I will send her us talking about what a delight she is, and then I will invite her to come on the show, and that'll be that'll be the plan. Okay. We'll touch on some of your publishing journeys some more, but first we should get back to Twin Daggers, available August 25th, available for pre-order right now. So why, after a successful string of middle grade novels, Creepy Weird Middle Grade is the brand? Why now is young adult the move?
So it's funny because I kind of fell into middle grade with that first book, with my editor buying it as middle grade, whereas before that I always thought of myself as a young adult writer. And it just kind of turned out that these ideas I had, a lot of them were really well suited for middle grade. And I really enjoyed writing that sort of like weird, creepy, I call them like my weird, creepy girls, except for the Star Shepherd, which is a weird, creepy boy, which was written with Dan Herring, who's an artist, which I have that cover here too. I'm just going to show it because it's so pretty. It's so shiny. It's foil. I love it. That one's that one came out a year ago, and it's so great. And Dan is the co-author. We wrote it together, and he also does illustrations. There's a bunch of illustrations in the book, and he did the cover, and it was really cool. Anyway, so I call them my weird, creepy girls. But I've been working on young adult books all along, and I actually started working on Twin Daggers in 2012, which was around the time that I first got an agent for Monstrous, and Monstrous got a book deal. So I've been working on this book for a really long time. And then I had to write the sequel in like 6 months, which is like, publishing is so weird. It really is. But this was my in-between contracts book, and like that book where I'm like, I love tinkering with this, and I love these characters, and I love their story, and I really hope it gets out there eventually. And I have other young adult stories that I'm working on too, like a couple sci-fi things, and a couple other fantasy ideas too. Right now, I happen to have, a really great relationship with Sourcebooks, who does my middle grade, from Shadow Weaver onward, and so they've been really great, really supportive, and they keep buying my books, so I'm delighted to keep writing. But hopefully, the young adult book will do well, and they'll keep buying those as well, because I love writing those as well. It's writing for kids, regardless of the age category. It's such an honor and a privilege. Like, kids are so great, and like I said before, books were such a formative and important thing for me, and they still are, but they especially were when I was growing up. That being able to write for other kids it's really a pretty cool thing. So, maybe I'll have a picture book someday if I figure that out.
I think that's the hardest of the kid book genres. I think that one's impossible.
Yeah, I have an idea, but I think it's too weird. We'll see.
Tell me you want a 500,000 word saga about teens. I'm your man. I got it. But a picture book, ooh, I don't know about that.
Yeah, when they say every word counts, they mean it. They really do. Like, I tend to write long. Like, Monstrous is a middle grade book. It's 105,000 words. It's a beast.
So how did you get away with that as a debut author? Because that is incredibly...
I don't know. honestly.
You said you sent it to the editor and they wanted to make it middle grade, and it ended up being longer. So how long was it when you sent it to them to begin
Well,
with?
it's funny. When we sent it to him, I think we sent my editor, it was like 75,000 words, because we've been pitching it as young adult, which for young adult, that's totally reasonable. Short, even, for young adult fantasy. And then she wanted me to age down this one plot issue in the last part of the book. And to do that, I ended up adding this really cool thing, and which I'm not going to say because it's a spoiler. And it ended up spending a lot more time in the Monstrous. They spent a lot of time in this one city, Briar, and then eventually they ended up going to a different city, and they spent a lot more time now in that other city because of this additional fun things. So the book really lived up to its name by it just kept growing and growing and growing. And while I should mention my edit letter for this book. Oh, I should have brought that down. I didn't. I read it for school visits, and it's fantastic. It's 20 single-spaced pages. Welcome to publishing, MarcyKate. I nearly had a panic attack when I first got that. However, it was brilliant, and thankfully my editor was very nice and understanding that it was in fact very long. And at the very beginning of the letter, she had this paragraph of like, I realize this is very long, but I think you're an amazing writer. You can totally do this. Rah, rah. Call me anytime if you need moral support. So I had that like highlighted and like taped to my computer and read it over and over. But also while I was writing Monstrous, in order to fill in a lot of things, a lot of what they wanted was more development of the characters and the backstory and things like that. So they kept asking for more. So I gave more. They certainly got it. And one thing that I ended up doing was writing a prequel novella because Chimera, the main character, she wakes up reborn, doesn't have a lot of memories. So I wrote a prequel novella about her life before during this time. So it was like a 3-month period of revising, writing this prequel novella, and doing this beast of an edit letter. And so I basically added like between the prequel novella and the additional words, like I wrote like 50,000 words one summer, which is not normal for me. But I loved the story, so it worked. And the prequel novella actually is published in the back of Ravenous. It's called Precious. But you wouldn't want to read it until after you read Monstrous because it's kind of a spoiler. But yeah, so it took a while to get there. But yeah, it's a beast. And then funny thing, when came time to write Ravenous, my editor, we had a little conversation. Like, you need to keep this a little shorter. Which I was like, yes, I will make it shorter. So Ravenous is more like 75,000 words, but then they published a 25,000 word prequel novella in the back of it. So they're actually the same size. It's not actually shorter at the end, but it's okay. So funny thing, publishing is funny like that. But the rest of my...
just that Monstrous was doing well and they didn't want kids to feel like they were getting less this time around, you think?
Maybe. I don't know.
Sounding good in my head. I don't know.
Sounds great to me.
Publishing is a fool's errand. I apologize.
The rest of my middle grade, though, has been shorter, generally speaking. So I've kind of figured out how to plot it a little better and keep it a little less epic. It was so more like creepy and fun and not quite as like epic fantasy as Monstrous probably is. So